travel disruption and drivers should take care. But in the south of England, the situation is much more serious. There are very high winds forecast, and London is now under its first red weather alert since the current warning system started. Our news correspondent Jamie McIver is with us now. So it's been quite a miserable day for some motorists so far, Jamie.
Well, indeed, Andrew, miserable, I would say, is certainly the word. As we were hearing from Victoria a moment ago, 2 yellow weather warnings are in force. One's for snow and covers most of Scotland. The other is for wind and covers part of the south of the country, especially Dumfries and Galloway. Both warnings run until 6. Now, to explain the way these weather warnings are structured, a yellow weather warning, it's not quite so severe as the amber warning we saw earlier in the week for Storm Dudley, but it's still to be taken very seriously. Now, looking at the conditions we've seen all through the morning across much of Scotland, there have been snow and sleet showers across much of the country. We were hearing a moment ago heavy snow in Murray and other parts of the northeast. Gritters and ploughs have been out. Driving conditions in many places have been difficult. Few incidents through the course of the morning. Drivers were stuck earlier in their cars on the A68 and part of the borders. The slip to the M8 was shut at Shotts around 7 o'clock this morning. All in all, it's not a day to be out driving if you can possibly avoid it. There's also been a degree of disruption to public transport through the morning. Some trains have been cancelled or delayed, but the network isn't shut like it was on Wednesday. Most services are running. The advice is just to be aware and be prepared for that risk of cancellations, to check before you travel. The same goes for the ferry network. Also some reports of long-distance bus services being affected today by snow and other difficult driving conditions. All in all, it's a day of disruption, though overall, across the country, it's not one of widespread difficulties. Many people appear to be following the advice.
We have had power cuts and school closures as well.
Indeed, we have. Over 100 schools in the northeast, mostly in Aberdeenshire, have been closed as a precaution. With rural schools, of course, you need to remember the problems students and staff could either have travelling in the morning or returning home later in the day. A few power cuts too. One widespread cut in Fife earlier, but the power is now back on. Also a power cut in part of Jedburgh for several hours. The hope is the power there should be back on this afternoon, but not widespread disruption to the power network.
In the south of England, it's much more serious, isn't it?
Oh, it certainly is, Andrew. 2 red warnings for high winds in southern England. One covered much of the southwest of England, including the coast of Cornwall and Devon and the coast of South Wales, and that warning was due to be lifted a few moments ago at 12 o'clock. The other is for much of London and the southeast, where the Mayor of London has urged people to stay in, and that warning in covering London runs until 3 o'clock. Now, just to look at some of the reports we've been getting from southern England, in Devon and Cornwall, 50,000 homes are without power. The M4 motorway was blocked when a lorry overturned. A gust of 110 miles an hour was recorded on the Isle of Wight, and roofs have been ripped off a lifeboat station and a swimming pool in Cornwall, and many reports of trees down. And that red warning in London, now, as you mentioned a moment ago, that is exceptional. It's the first time there's been a red weather warning covering London since the current system of warnings was introduced 11 years ago. That warning due to run until 3 o'clock, but as you can imagine, it's a very real risk in such a densely populated area.
OK, thank you for now, Jamie. That's our news correspondent, Jamie McIver.
Well, let's speak to David Cairns now from Transport Scotland and get an update across the network. Afternoon to you, David.
Good afternoon, Douglas. Thanks.
Oh, Douglas, I do beg your pardon. So we've been hearing there about a number of, quite major roads, main arteries that are closed at the moment. Is that likely to be the situation, through the afternoon, do you think?
Obviously today there's a yellow snow warning, a yellow warning for snow in effect till 6 p.m. tonight. it looks like it's an improving picture at the moment. We do have a number of incidents ongoing at the moment. For example, the N90 northbound between Junction 7 and 8 is restricted, and the A90 southbound at Finhaven is closed at the moment as well. Police Scotland have still got a high risk of disruption travel warning out as well. So our advice is to plan ahead. Obviously, be prepared if you are planning on travelling. Make sure you have, the kit, jacket, etc. in your vehicle, and check in and also allow plenty of extra time for your travel.
Okay, and is this mostly just because of the snowfall?
Yeah, I think obviously this is, I was going to say, residual impacts as the snow's coming down. Our operating companies have been working around the clock with our gritters and winter fleet to make sure that the roads are safe and clear as physically possible to allow people to move about the network today. It's not going to stop the disruption, but it is going to hopefully mitigate the effects of it as much as physically possible.
And as we sort of get into the afternoon, Douglas, and even towards, evening travel again, what would your advice be for anyone likely to be on the roads later?
Yeah, advice is obviously be aware of the forecast, the weather warnings, understand what impacts you're likely to see as you travel between A and B. Take that into consideration when you are planning on travelling. Consider how you want to travel, whether you want to take an alternative method of transport or if you want to delay or postpone your journey based on obviously the impacts that you might likely to see.
And what are you expecting then, later tonight, in tomorrow as well?
So later tonight, obviously the snow warning comes off at 6 p.m. We have an ice warning as well, which is valid till tomorrow. So from our perspective, it's an improving picture. We're likely to see the disruption easing. But look ahead for Sunday. There is a wind warning at a yellow stage for Sunday into Monday as well. So we're likely to see some changeable weather conditions over the weekend.
Yeah, there doesn't seem to be much respite, does there? Douglas Kearns, thank you for joining us. That's Douglas Kearns from Transport Scotland.
Well, let's find out what we can expect from Storm Eunice more generally for the rest of the day. Jonathan Vaughtry is from the Met Office. Good afternoon, Jonathan.
Good afternoon.
What are we looking at Scotland-wise then?
So Storm Eunice is now sort of tracking across the UK, and sort of the eye of the storm, in a sense, has sort of been going across southern areas of Scotland with that rain and snow across northern areas in particular, and then sort of feeding around into other areas as well. As we go on throughout the afternoon, that rain will continue to sort of clear off, and the snow as well will continue to ease off a bit. So most of the snowfall has already occurred, and the rest of sort of the day will just see sort of a few centimetres sort of topping up on that for southern areas of Scotland, whereas we might see sort of 5 centimetres for areas of sort of modest high ground. For northern Scotland, potentially still sort of 10-20 centimetres for the highest sites over the course of this afternoon.
What about the situation in the rest of the UK? It's a lot worse in some parts.
Yes, so we have seen, obviously, as the reporters have said, significant disruption across the southern areas of the UK. We have recently recorded a gust of 122 miles per hour on the Isle of Wight, and that is provisionally the strongest wind gust ever recorded in England. So this is quite a noticeable storm coming through with quite widespread disruption, and those wind gusts will make their way eastwards, so that red wind warning in force for areas of the southeast, including London, over the course of these next few hours. So definitely care is obviously still needed in the hours to come.
Yeah, so there are still warnings in place.
There are, yes. So that red warning will take its sort of sort of runs for the next few hours and is scheduled to finish 3 o'clock. But it's important to note that there is still a high impact amber warning for much of southern England and Wales as well, that runs until 9 o'clock this afternoon and this evening even. So even though that red warning for the most severe impacts might finish at 3 o'clock, we are still expecting widespread disruption within that amber warning zone until well into the evening tonight.
Okay, many thanks. That's Jonathan Bocci there from the Met Office. Let's just give you a quick curling update. I can't really tell what's happening.
In the next few hours, let's get an update now of the travel situation with Victoria Lumsden.
In Aberdeen, the A96 at Blackburn is closed in both directions because of snow. That's between the Clinterty roundabout and the Crabestone roundabout. Traffic there is queuing. In Aberdeenshire, the A944 at Westhill is only just passable eastbound. We're also getting reports that multiple vehicles have become stuck in the snow there, although traffic is now able to pass. In Aberdeen, the A90 Western Peripheral route is blocked northbound by snow between Milltimber and Craigstone. Also vehicles stuck here. In Angus, the A90 at Finhaven is closed southbound between Finhaven services and the turn-off for Forfar. That's also because of heavy snow and some stranded vehicles here too. To Perth, and the A9 is blocked southbound between Perth and Gleneagles. In the Stirling area, the A821 Dukes Pass in Aberfoyle is closed in both directions between the Stirling turn-off and the Loch Achray Hotel because of heavy snow. Also in the Stirling area, the A82 at Tyndrum is blocked because of heavy snow. On public transport, we're getting word that London City Airport, all flights in and out of London City Airport have been cancelled until at least mid-afternoon because of high winds. BA are tweeting of extreme weather conditions resulting in a number of airports being affected across the UK. The advice is, if you are due to fly anywhere, do check before you set off. On the ferry, Stena Line in Dumfries and Galloway has suspended services between Cairnryan and Belfast because of heavy winds. And Calmac, or the Colonsay and Colin-Tyree routes have been cancelled for the day. Other routes, though, are liable to disruption too, so the advice here too, if you're due to travel by ferry, do check ahead. BBC Radio Scotland Travel.
Now, the Mayor of Kiev has appealed for calm, saying